everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing the anti-tbr tag. This tag was created by Nicole from Nicole and Her Books, and it's basically just a tag to talk about books that you'll never read, authors you're never going to read. So we have like eight and a half questions in total. The first one is a popular book everyone loves that you have no interest in reading. This answer might seem a bit left field, but My Dark Vanessa by, is it Kate Elizabeth Russell? I can't remember the author's name, I'm so sorry. The short reason that I have no interest is that it looks too sad. It's obviously like about a very important topic, you know, of like sexual assault, abusive relationships, especially when it comes to relationships between like a minor and an adult. And people have raved about this book, you know. It was nominated for a Good Reader's Choice Award. I have consistently seen positive reviews for it. I do have books on my TBR too that have like similar themes. Like, for example, I have Asking for It by Louise O'Neill. However, whenever I see My Dark Vanessa on my timeline, anything like that, I'm just like, I pretend I do not see it. Next question is a classic book or author you don't have an interest in reading. I'm going to say Jack Kerouac, the author of On the Road. I've heard very mixed things, and I know his stuff is like a bit problematic, and obviously he was writing and was publishing stuff in the 50s mostly, so you could say it's of the time, but I'm just very uninterested. And there are people whose reviews I trust who have read the book fairly recently. I said like, nah, this book ain't it. Plus I've seen reviews that his writing style is pretty stream of consciousness but done badly, and there are other authors like Cormac McCarthy who have a very similar writing style but I've seen kind of more favourable, more positive reviews about. Third question is an author whose books you have no interest in reading. This might be a bit controversial, so please don't hate me for this. I'm sure this author is like a lovely person or whatever, but I have no interest in reading Sarah J Maas. It seems like on BookTube and the bookish community in general that she's a very Marmite author. People really either love her or hate her, or I see that people used to love her but now hate her, and her books in general just don't interest me. I don't read a lot of young adult fantasy, but obviously I've seen lots of people talking about her books, but like the plots of her books, they just don't interest me. Nothing really stands out to me about them other than like, you know, Echo War, A Court of War, and what's it called again? I literally just had to look this up because I always forget the names of them. A Court of Thorns and Roses. I only just learned in like the last year that A Court of Thorns and Roses is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but still I'm not that bothered about it. And then when it comes to like the Throne of Glass series, Assassins is something that I'm not really interested about reading either. Going back to ACOTAR, there are some like Fae characters in that book, which is something I'm partly interested in reading, but not enough for me to like invest my time in her book series. And then again with Crescent City, that's also had a lot of hype, and just don't care. I'm just not interested. I know that her books are quite romance heavy and steamy too, which is something I don't mind in books, but it's something I've often used heard against her, and I've never been able to tell whether it is because the like smutty steamy scenes are like badly written, or whether the people who are reading it are just kind of prudish and are not into that kind of thing. If the books are very smutty and steamy, it's interesting that the books get categorised as young adult, other than her most recent one, you know, Crescent City, which is an adult fantasy. But yeah, please don't hate me if you love Sarah J Maas, but it's just a personal opinion. I don't read a lot of fantasy. Fantasy is not my genre. Question 3.2 is a problematic author whose books you have no interest in reading. I'm cheating a little bit with this one because I have read Mackenzie Lee before, the author of A Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, but I don't have interest in reading her again. I didn't like Gentleman's Guide that much. I gave it like 3 stars, which I think may have been a little bit generous. And actually halfway through me reading the book last year in April, this drama happened with her. Basically Mackenzie Lee works at a bookstore, I believe, and she was signing books herself that were written by other authors and like POC authors as well. She wasn't just signing these books either, she was like defacing them almost and doodling all over the books. I feel like she did it thinking that it was some kind of like funny, witty thing to do, but no, it was just really weird and disrespectful to other authors, especially, like I said, authors of colour. But yeah, if Mackenzie Lee comes out with anything now, I will not be reading that again. Question 4 is an author you have read a couple of books from and have decided their books are not for you. This is hard because I think like never say never. A lot of times with authors, if I give their book 3 stars or lower, then I'm just like never again, because I'm quite bitter I suppose. So I guess I'm copping out on this question a little bit because I don't know, I just don't have a definite answer, and I think it'd be unfair for me to call out on comments on authors who I've only read one book from, and it might be their debut book, and for me to write out and say I'm never going to read their books again, because I don't know, I might decide to give them another chance in the future. Question 5 is a genre you have no interest in, or a genre you tried to get into and couldn't. Again, never say never for me with genres, but I'd say paranormal. In a later question this will come up again, but I just have no interest in paranormal anymore, like aliens in a non-sci-fi context, vampires, demons. I don't really care for when it comes to books anymore. I had my Twilight phase, and compared to other people I didn't really expand into that. I didn't watch like The Vampire Diaries or Vampire Academy. I mostly read contemporary, so I am really willing to expand and try some other genres like thrillers and historical and romance. I remember a few years ago there was a like paranormal romance fantasy book series that was really popular about a girl who had a neighbour who just moved in and he was an alien and she fell in love with him. I think it was the Look series by Jennifer L. Armentrout, because I remember a few years ago the covers were kind of awful. But I remember there being some hype about that book, and I guess I was slightly interested in them a few years ago, but right now I'm just not bothered about it. I just don't care for that genre personally. Question 6 is a book you have bought but will never read. So I own Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. I don't think I'm ever going to read this. I've had this on my shelf for quite a while and it's been there for so long and it's just remained untouched that it's like caked in dust. It's kind of disgusting. And this book isn't necessarily written by she who will not be named. It's based on an original story by her, by John, Tiffany and Jack Thorne. But I generally have very conflicting feelings towards Harry Potter now because of Rowling's transphobic views. I heard that a few years ago from people who tried to read this book but then went to see the stage play, that the stage play is a lot better. But I'm not really sure if I want to see the stage play anymore, especially if money from the ticket sales of that show are just going to be lining Rowling's pockets, because I don't want to really give her any more of my money. I'll also say, and I'll add on to this, I feel a bit nervous to actually say this, but a few years ago when there was the big trend of booktubers publishing books and writing books, there were a few YouTuber book signings I went to and I got the books for, and I still haven't read them. I feel pretty terrible about it as well, because the books that are right now quite low priority on my TBR in terms of my like priority to read them, and when I have like 50 books on my TBR at this current moment, I'm just not drawn to them at all, and again I feel bad about it. It also makes it complicated because the YouTuber books that I have that are unread are people who, I don't know, I don't necessarily watch or get as much from their content anymore, so I'm not really sure if I want to read them, but maybe one day if I decide to do a video that's like reading YouTuber books, because they always seem to get views. Question 7 is a series you have no interest in reading, or a series you started and have DNF'd. My answer for this is going to be some Cassandra Clare. The Infernal Devices, so like Clockwork Princess, Clockwork Angel, etc., I have a slight interest in reading, and then the Last Star Wars series, which is like Chain of Gold, because I know that's like the same characters or like universe or whatever. But most of the Mortal Instruments series, so like City of Bones, and then the like Dark Artifices series, I have no interest in. And I know those are so popular on BookTube, everybody loves Cassandra Clare, but I just have very little interest in paranormal stuff. I can't even really tell you why the Infernal Devices is the series I want to read more than the others. Maybe it's because of the Victorian setting, maybe it's because it's only 3 books and I don't know, it's less intimidating because I know it's like the beginning of like the whole Shadowhunters timeline universe, and I think the cover of Chain of Gold is pretty. Again, I'm sorry if you love Cassandra Clare and everything she does, but it's just not for me. I've already said I don't read young adult fantasy. I've heard people for years talking about the books, but just don't stand out to me, which sounds horrible to say, but it's just a personal preference. If we're talking about a series I DNF'd, then Serpent and Dove by Shelby Maherin. I DNF'd it 3 hours into the audiobook and I don't plan on picking it up again or reading the rest of the books. Then the last question is a new release you have no interest in reading. I am sure there'll be books that come out later this year that get a lot of hype and I'll just be like, nah, not for me. So this answer might seem a little bit left field, but a book called This Close to OK by Lisa Cross Smith. I believe this was a book of the month pick, so I saw it quite a bit and I was interested in it. However, I've seen reviews saying that the main character is awful and she just makes fun of a man who was about to take his life or something like that, so I will not be picking that book up. That is something I don't want to be reading about. So yeah, that's the end of this tag. If you want to do this tag as well, feel free. I'll link Nicole's original video in the description. Let me know in the comments below at least what is one author that you will never read. I'll be interested to know that. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you fancy. I hope you have a great day and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!